Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters, your Magic the Gathering source that helps you command your budget. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all their support. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show. So the official Day 1 spoiler season of Dungeons & Dragons Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, yeah, that's all a mouthful, continues on. And it's getting to that point of the day that I might need a second cup of coffee, but we'll see. Now, I might need that coffee because early this morning I was working on the very first episode today on Xanathar Guild Kingpin. Xanathar is all about taking your opponent's cards and making them your own. And then also make sure you check out my most recent episode on Trelisara Moon Dancer. She's a low-to-the-ground Simic commander that can make life gain pretty powerful. But of course, don't check out those episodes before you watch this one because it would be very rude for you to leave me right now and I would be sad. And on top of me being sad, you'd be missing out on a very exciting new card called Treasure Chest. Oh, okay. I admit, the name isn't all that exciting, but what it does is pretty incredible. So, what exactly does Treasure Chest do? Well, let's jump into it to find out. So, Treasure Chest is an artifact that costs 3 and it has pay for and sacrifice it, roll a d20. That's right, you heard me correctly. An official black bordered magic card says, roll a d20. That is something we have not seen legal in any format, outside of like limited for the unsets or whatnot, but we'll get to that here in a bit. Regardless, when you roll a d20, one of 4 things happens depending on what you rolled. When you are extremely unlucky and roll a 1, you are trapped and you lose 3 life. Now, trapped actually doesn't mean anything there, it's just kind of more like flavor, and you'll see that on some other cards in this set. Regardless, you lose 3 life. But again, there's only a 5% chance of that actually happening. A much higher likelihood is that you roll between a 2 and a 9, and in that case, you're going to create 5 treasure tokens. So once this is out and you pay the 4 mana to sacrifice it, you net some mana by gaining 5 treasure tokens. It makes sense that a treasure chest would have, well, treasures. So because that's between rolling a 2 and a 9, you've got a 40% chance of that happening. But with a slightly higher likelihood from 10 to 19, you gain 3 life and draw 3 cards. Now 3 life is, well, nice, but not all that great, but 3 cards, yeah, I'll take that. But much like D&D, what you're really hoping to roll is a natural 20. Because when you do that, you search your library for a card, and if it's an artifact card, you may put it onto the battlefield, otherwise put that card in your hand, then shuffle. So this is a tutor for whatever you want in your deck, and if it's an artifact, you just put it right into play. And yeah, of course, there are some spicy and powerful and game-ending cards that you can go get with this. Now, how powerful and useful is this card? Well, it definitely depends on what roll you're gonna get. And again, chances are very unlikely that you roll a 1 and lose 3 life, but they're equally as unlikely that you roll a 20 and tutor up whatever you want. The vast majority of the time, you're gonna be either gaining 3 life and drawing 3 cards, or making 5 treasure tokens. And each of those obviously can be very helpful. So the vast majority of the time, at the very least, you're going to get a decent benefit out of this. You either get a ton of temporary ramp that you can utilize for a big spell or something else later, or you draw some cards in, gain some life, and who's going to complain about that? Now, that being said, there are definitely some decks and definitely some commanders out there that are really going to want to take a look at this card. But before we do that, let's take a quick look at those other cards that I mentioned earlier that deal with D20s in Magic. Like I mentioned earlier, Treasure Chest is now the only legal D20 card in Magic, but it doesn't mean that it's the only one because we've got other cards like Sword of Dungeons & Dragons, Dungeon Master, and Carson the Beholder. Sword of Dungeons & Dragons came out, I believe, in HasCon of 2017, but was reprinted in Unstable and Unsanctioned. It says equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from rogues and from clerics. And whenever a equipped creature deals combination to a player, create a 4/4 gold dragon creature token with flying and roll a d20. If you roll a 20, repeat this process. So this is kind of like a joke continuation of the sword cycle where you've got a Dungeons & Dragons sword. If you keep rolling 20s, you keep getting more and more dragons. And then the other two cards are from Heroes of the Realm. According to MTG Wiki, Heroes of the Realm cards are specifically created for Wizards of the Coast in very limited numbers and handed out by the execs to some of their employees as a token of appreciation. Basically, Magic players like you and I will probably never see these cards and will definitely never own them because, yeah, there's only like 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever out there. Regardless, Dungeon Master has a +1, roll a d20. If you roll a 1, skip your next turn. If you roll a 12 or higher, draw a card. So rolling a 1 with this is most definitely a critical failure and you skip your next turn, which is pretty awful. But chances are much more likely that either nothing happens or you roll a 12 or higher and you get to draw a card. And then when Karsten the Beholder enters the battlefield and at the beginning of your upkeep, you create a 1/1 white human creature token and you make a charisma check, which in parentheses says roll a d20. If the result plus the number of creatures you control is greater than 11, you put a +1 counter on each creature you control. If the result is a natural 20, for each non-legendary creature you control, create a token that's a copy of that creature. So with more and more creatures in play, your dice gets a slight boost for that first part. But for the second part, it doesn't matter how many creatures you've got in play, you've got to roll the natural 20 to actually get that. And when you do, that's a pretty big effect. Regardless, again, these cards are essentially not played in Commander or in any other format really, but Treasure Chest very much can be. It's pretty weird, but pretty awesome to see D20 on an actual card that can be played in Commander. Now, will we get any other D20 cards or cards that help us, add to our D20 or help us re-roll? I'm not sure. But what I do know is that there are plenty of incredible things that you can tutor up if you happen to be lucky enough to roll that natural 20. So again, when you roll that natural 20, of course you can go get whatever cards you want, but if you go get an artifact, including an artifact creature, well, it comes right into play. So some big considerations could be Triplicate Titan, Inkwell Leviathan, and of course Blightsteel Colossus. Triplicate Titan is a 9/9 flying vigilance trample golem that costs 9. And when it dies, you create a 3/3 for each of its keywords, so a 3/3 with flying, a 3/3 with vigilance, and a 3/3 with trample. So this is not only a powerful creature, but it's also powerful when it dies. And how about the incredibly hard to deal with Inkwell Leviathan? It's a 7/1 Leviathan that costs 7 blue, and it's got Island Walk and Trample and Shroud. So it can get through on a lot of opponents, or at least trample over some creatures, and yeah, your opponents can't target it, neither can you, but your opponents definitely can't either. But yeah, out of all of your options, if you've got it in your deck, of course you're going to go grab Blightsteel Colossus. It's an 11/11 golem with trample, infect, and indestructible, and it costs 12 mana. So yeah, thanks to that infect, it's essentially a one-shot kill creature that's incredibly hard to deal with. Speaking of which, if it would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, you reveal it and shuffle into its owner's library instead. So then all you have to do is just get your treasure chest back into play, sacrifice it again, and roll a d20 again. Incredibly easy to do, right? Jokes aside though, yeah, rolling a d20 with your treasure chest can definitely be a game-ending play. And of course, aside from artifact creatures, there are plenty of other powerful artifacts that you can just grab as well. Darksteel Forge is an artifact that costs 9. It says artifacts you control have indestructible. So in an artifact-centric deck, good luck dealing with this or any of my other artifacts. Or how about the lovely Possessed Portal? It's an artifact for 8 that says if a player would draw a card, that player skips that draw instead. At the end of each turn, each player sacrifices a permanent unless they discard a card from their hand. Basically, if no one can deal with this, yeah, we're just going to stick around for a while and see who can sacrifice things for the longest. So if you're in the best position and you get this out, this can be a fantastic way to close out the game, though it can be kind of annoying and slow. Or, you can go grab something like a combo piece, like something like Mycosynth Lattice, to just win the game right there. And actually, now that I think about it, Mycosynth Lattice also has some lockout the game combos that can take, a long time to actually win the game. But anyways, the artifact that you tutor up doesn't even have to have a high mana cost. I mean, Isochron Scepter is an incredibly powerful and broken artifact. It costs 2 and it's got imprint. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile an instant card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your hand. By paying 2, you can tap it to copy the exiled card. If you do, you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. So this in combination with a card like Dramatic Reversal just basically gives you infinite mana as long as you've got enough mana rocks in play and infinite other things depending on your artifacts that are in play. And actually, with the treasure chest, remember that even if you're just missing one side of the combo and it's not an artifact like Dramatic Reversal, you can still tutor that into your hand. So have fun with that. Now again, most of the time, you're not going to be rolling a 20 unless you're the luckiest person in the world. And in that case, congratulations, have fun with this card, but for most of us, we're going to be rolling between a 2 and a 9 or a 10 and a 19. Now, of course, between a 10 and a 19, gaining 3 life and drawing 3 cards, that is nice, and there are plenty of ways to synergize with that. But now I actually just want to highlight some ways to synergize with those 5 treasure tokens that you might be making. First up, from Modern Horizons 2, we've got the brand new Academy Manufacturer. It's a 1/3 assembly worker for 3 that says if you create a clue, food, or treasure token, instead create 1 of each. So if we've got a deck that revolves around treasures, treasure chests could definitely fit right in. There's a pretty good chance we're actually going to get those treasures, and when we do with Academy Manufacturer in play, we're getting a lot of other tokens as well. And there's a lot of things that you can do with those 15 tokens that are quite powerful. Regardless, another card that really synergizes with those treasures is Goldspan Dragon. It's a 4/4 dragon with flying and haste, and whenever it attacks or becomes the target of a spell, create a treasure token. Oh yeah, and also, treasures you control have tap, sacrifice this artifact, add 2 mana of any one color. So this doubles up the value of each of our treasures. So essentially now our 5 treasures net us mana overall. Or how about some benefits whenever we sacrifice those treasures with things like Marionette Master and Martyr's Bond? Marionette Master is a 1/3 human artificer that has Fabricate 3, and whenever an artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, target opponent loses life equal to Marionette Master's power. So first off, when we sacrifice the treasure chest, Marionette Master drains an opponent. Most of the time that's probably going to be 4. And then for each treasure we sacrifice, we do the same. So in total, we're going to be sacrificing 6 artifacts, triggering this 6 times, and yeah, 4 times 6 equals 24. That's a lot of life lost. And then Martyr's Bond is an enchantment for 4 white that says whenever it or another non-land permanent you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a permanent that shares a card type with it. So goodbye to all of your opponent's artifacts. Again, when you sacrifice the treasure chest, they each lose 1. And then you sacrifice your 5 treasure tokens, and goodbye to every single mana rock that they have. Or should I say mana rocks, and pretty much whatever artifacts they have on the board. You're going to wipe every single artifact they have. But now that we've talked about some synergies, let's talk about some commanders that might want to consider treasure chest. Now, treasure chest might be a little too slow for Korvold and might not always work for Korvold, but it's a really powerful thing when it does. Korvold Fakir's King is a 4/4 Dragon Noble with flying that has, whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, sacrifice another permanent. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, put a ++1 counter on Korvold and draw a card. So again, if we hit that 2 to 9, we are getting those 5 treasures, and again, we are sacrificing 6 permanents in total, drawing 6 cards, and getting 6 counters on this. So that can be pretty powerful when it actually works out that way. Now, if you miss and draw some cards and gain some life, that's okay, and if you hit a 20, that's even better. Obviously, hitting a 1, not so good. Regardless, another treasure-based commander that could really use treasure chest is Magda Brazen Outlaw. Magda is a 2/1 dwarf berserker that costs 1 in a red. She has other dwarfs you control get +1/+0. Whenever a dwarf you control becomes tapped, create a treasure token. And by sacrificing 5 treasures, search your library for an artifact or dragon card, put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. This commander is actually incredibly hilarious and pretty powerful with treasure chest. First off, yep, if you roll that natural 20, you go tutor up whatever you want from your deck, and if it's an artifact, you put into play. But if you happen to roll that 2 through 9 and you get those 5 treasures, well, you can sacrifice them and still go get any artifact you want from your deck or a dragon card and put it right onto the battlefield. So with this commander, in a somewhat strange way, you kind of have a better chance to basically get that 20 effect. So yeah, pretty powerful and pretty funny, and I can definitely see it going in a lot of Magda decks. Next up, another commander that might want to consider this is Shroom the Hegemon. Shroom is a 5/5 Sphinx with flying that costs 3 white, blue, black. When she enters the battlefield, you may return target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So if you want to have some fun and do some treasure chest shenanigans, you can just keep getting it back with this commander when you blink her or get her back from the graveyard, etc, etc. And yeah, this is definitely a commander that can be built heavy combo, and yeah, rolling a d20 can just basically win you the game. And speaking of getting your treasure chest back, let's talk about Osgir the Reconstructor. Osgir is a 4/4 giant artificer with vigilance that costs 2 red-white. By paying 1, you can sacrifice an artifact and target creature you control gets +2/+0 until end of turn. And then by paying X and tapping Osgir, you exile an artifact with mana value X from your graveyard and create 2 tokens that are copies of the exiled card, activate only as a sorcery. So what's better than 1 treasure chest? 2 treasure chests. Okay, or actually, technically 3 treasure chests if you actually already used the first one. And actually, in a pretty funny way, the treasure that you get from your treasure chest, if you roll a 2 to 9, can actually just pay for those 2 other treasure chests that you're going to get with this. So have fun with that. And speaking of fun, though not really, there's Urza Lord High Artificer. When Urza enters the battlefield, you create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token. With this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. Tap an untapped artifact you control, add blue. And by paying 5, you shuffle your library, then exile the top card. Until end of turn, you may play that card without paying its mana cost. Now, Urza is an incredibly overpowered commander, and Treasure Chest probably doesn't have a place in it unless it's a fun version of it that's not just looking to win very, very quickly. Regardless, if you've got more of a fun-focused version of an Urza deck, Treasure Chest could be a good addition. At the very worst, it starts off as a slow mana rock. By sacrificing it, yes, you can draw some cards or gain some life, but let's hope that you actually make some treasures, because then you're just basically ramping yourself. Or, you can tutor out that Blightsteel Colossus and win. But now it's time for me to wrap things up and give you my final thoughts on this card. I am really happy that Wizards actually brought a roll a d20 card into an actual Magic set. Now, is this card incredibly powerful? Again, it really depends on what you roll, and because of that, the answer is, well, no. It is definitely more of a fun card and can be a valuable card in certain decks, but yeah, it's not an overpowered card for a lot of them. That being said, if you've got a deck with some draw synergies or some treasure synergies, yeah, definitely consider this card. Or, if you're just a very lucky person and roll natural 20s all day, yeah, go for it. And with that, this show is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thanks again and have a good one.